Welcome to the Longebility Mindset channel, the channel that helps you discover why you should want to live a long, healthy, wise, and happy life. Here we go. Let's get started right away. The afterlife seems like a mysterious, mystical concept often associated with mediumship or topics like death or spirits. For these reasons, it's a subject that mostly evokes fear in many people. What most people don't realize is that what we call the afterlife is also a part of our existence here and now, even though we don't know much about it. To live a fully realized life, it's important to recover our wholeness, to remember who we are, where we come from, and what the purpose of our current experience is. When you reflect on it, it's quite easy to understand that there is an afterlife that exists even before our birth. The metaphysical world doesn't only concern what happens after death. There are states of consciousness, vibrations, and ways of being from which we come and to which we will return. That's why the afterlife shouldn't be seen only as something tied to the disappearance of our physical body. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin said, "Life never ends. It continues in other forms and dimensions that we cannot fully comprehend." The afterlife can be seen as the beating heart of our existence, the primordial source from which everything originates and to which everything inevitably returns. It's everything that extends beyond the world we know, and even beyond what we cannot yet understand. There will always be an other side, even when we exist only as pure light, free from the need to have a physical body. The afterlife is not something to fear because it takes on different forms for each creature. Every living being perceives and crosses the afterlife according to its own nature and its evolutionary journey. We must look at everything with new eyes, awaken and open our minds to discover what we still don't know about life. For us as human beings, the afterlife is like a world to be explored. Many take for granted that we are separate from the afterlife, from the universe, from nature, and from the people around us. But this separation is just an illusion that leads us to identify our soul as mine. This illusion causes us to say, "I am here," and "you are there," as if our life were an individual, isolated line. In reality, the evolution of everything and every single part is never separate. It's a single dance in which everything is connected and part of the same universal consciousness. When we believe we are distinct individuals, trapped in our ego, our level of consciousness, or our path, we exclude ourselves from the truth of our existence as manifestations of the same divine spirit. Again, Pierre Teilhard de Chardin reminds us, we are not human beings having a spiritual experience, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Suffering arises from the thought that we are separate, that we exist as autonomous and detached individuals. The more we root ourselves in this idea, the more we distance ourselves from our true essence. The truth is that we are all expressions of a single divine consciousness, and in this unity there are no hierarchies, no separations between you and the other. When we understand this, we realize that every action, every thought, and every emotion we experience is part of the same existence, the spirit exploring itself through each of us. Life, in all its vastness, reflects in each of us, and we are life itself, experiencing new shades of itself in every moment. The true awakening happens when we recognize that there is no I separate from the whole, but only the whole experiencing itself through us. It's the identification with our persona, with our expectations, and our need to be continuously validated by others that causes our suffering. All our small or big daily problems arise from the fact that we depend on the external world, which maintains or shakes the image we have of ourselves. We cling to the idea that others are responsible for our happiness, and in doing so, we lose the connection to our true essence, to our soul. In reality, many of these problems, arguments, jealousy, disappointments, come solely from identification with the ego. If someone speaks to us rudely, doesn't reply to a message, or looks at us unkindly, we feel hurt. But it's not the specific act that makes us suffer. It's the meaning we assign to it, the perceived threat to the image we have built of ourselves. When we understand, when we become enlightened and embrace the afterlife, that is, when our soul fully takes control of our life, we will realize how much time and energy we have wasted worrying about who ignored us or didn't pay us attention. And perhaps we'll have a compassionate laugh at ourselves. Then we will realize that we've missed precious opportunities to expand and grow because of insignificant details. This is how important it is to use our life and longevity in the healthiest and most vital way possible to discover who we truly are. Rumi left us with this awareness. The soul doesn't die. It continues its journey in a vaster and deeper existence where it discovers the true meaning of life. Now, as a human being, you've reached a sufficient level of consciousness to understand that you are endowed with free will, and you have the ability to free yourself from illusions and the insignificant dynamics that revolve around you. Our mission is not to live chasing the approval of others, but to awaken within us the strength of our true essence. Every time we free ourselves from the expectations of our ego, we draw closer to our true essence, to our soul, and begin to experience a more authentic and free life. Every experience, whether pleasant or uncomfortable, is an opportunity to understand, evolve, and develop consciousness. Complete understanding is the final realization. The soul not only guides us, but continuously stimulates us to allow the spirit to express itself through it. When our soul is fully aligned with the spirit, our existence becomes a true miracle. We begin to live not only as individuals, but as manifestations of existence itself. We are a direct expression of the divine, and in this state, matter no longer limits us. When we resonate with the spirit of cosmic consciousness, we realize our highest potential. This is the meaning of enlightenment, to live fully in our truth and our unity with all that exists. Jiddu Krishnamurti said, "Enlightenment is the sudden realization that life has no time, that life is eternity." Reaching this state requires a long journey that spans many lives, many deaths, and many reincarnations. Our task in each incarnation is to push the limits of what we are, allowing our consciousness to align more and more with the spirit. Often during life, we let ourselves be distracted by the external world, which exists precisely to test us and create the necessary friction that pushes us to overcome it, to understand and evolve. If we remain victims of these ego dynamics, we don't listen to the silent call of the soul, which patiently continues to knock, trying to be recognized. If we continue to ignore it, it slowly withdraws. This is the moment of surrender that also marks the beginning of the abandonment, of the evolutionary process, and the onset of old age. This is the moment of spiritual death, which, after some time, manifests in the physical body. Socrates said, "It is not death that a man should fear, but rather never beginning to live." Every time we decide instead to listen to that silent voice, that deep feeling, a small miracle happens. It is a step towards the rediscovery of our authentic, immortal essence. The more we learn to give space to our soul, the more we live authentically, healthily, and happily, thus also creating the ideal conditions for a long and fulfilling life. The real power of a long and happy existence is revealed when we realize that we are part of a much larger reality than what we perceive with our senses. The great spiritual masters are those who manage to bring all their dimensions into their present, fully embodying their divine essence. This is why their presence is so transformative, and their spirit is perceived as an energy that fills the space. Our task in every incarnation is not simply to grow, work, and achieve results, but to work on ourselves to reconnect with the soul. When this happens, our existence rises, becoming one with the spirit. In this state, there will no longer be a distinction between me and the other, between me and the world, and between the here and the afterlife. Our true daily challenge is to consciously choose in every moment who we want to be, allowing the soul to emerge, without letting ourselves be dragged into automatic reactions. When the soul manages to make itself heard, it always acts calmly and never reacts impulsively. It doesn't respond out of the emotion of the moment, but deliberately chooses its state of being. Carl Jung left us with this thought: who looks outside, dreams; who looks inside, awakens. Every time we give space to the soul, letting go of immediate reactions, we allow it to transform the situation and ourselves. To do this, however, we must have the courage to let go of our rigid and fixed identity, the one that makes us say, "This is who I am." The more we cling to our ego, the harder it becomes for the soul to take control and guide us toward transformation, accelerating our aging process. In every moment, we can, however, make a small revolution by choosing to set aside our habits and certainties. It's a bit like dying, but it's in this symbolic death that the soul begins to live, to shine, to grow. When we stop seeing every situation through the lenses of our ego, we can truly ask ourselves, how would my soul respond to this question? What would it do in this situation? It's a powerful question that, if asked sincerely, opens up new possibilities. Just imagine how the soul would behave, letting it guide us. Over time, we learn to recognize its voice and distinguish it from the noise of our fears and insecurities. In this historical moment of great changes and crises of all kinds, more than ever, we are called to make conscious choices, to free ourselves from automatic reactions, and to fully embody our divine essence. People who are in the second half of their lives are becoming an increasingly large part of the global population. This phase of life represents a unique opportunity to bring wisdom, awareness, and concrete actions that can contribute not only to personal evolution, but also to the well-being and evolution of society as a whole. Old age can represent a time of great wisdom, where illusions and superficialities of life are abandoned to focus on what is truly essential. Confucius said, "At 50, a man knows the will of heaven." This openness makes us conscious cells of divinity, spiritual adults who don't react to circumstances, but create them with intention. Then, yes, every day will be truly better than the previous one, not because external things change, but because our inner vision grows, because each day we resemble more and more our true divine essence. Life is much more than what appears on the surface. It is a weave of experiences, people, and subtle messages that guide us toward our evolution. When we face difficulties or doubts, we must remember that we chose this path for our growth and for the glory of our being, not because we are small or incomplete, but because we are royal, strong, wise souls, eager to explore, to know, and to realize the divine potential that belongs to us. So, instead of seeing life as a series of trials, we can see it as a series of opportunities to continue rediscovering ourselves and turning every experience into a work of art, into an expression of the soul. Every day is a new step toward our completeness, toward the reunion with all parts of ourselves, so that in the end, we can shine with all our light, just as we promised ourselves before coming here. When we do this, we not only transform ourselves, but we also change the world around us, bringing more light, more consciousness, and more beauty into every aspect of our lives. This video can be the starting point for beginning the journey of rediscovering our soul, a path that leads to living more authentically and connected. Thank you for watching the video until the end. If this message resonated with you, leave a like and share it with someone who may benefit from it. Finally, if you haven't done so yet, subscribe to the Longebility Mindset channel. Thank you from the heart.